Well, it's a beautiful first night, beginning of the night here in Wyoming. Everything except for the bugs. Sun's going down behind the ridge. It's quite beautiful. I have a really cool campsite, which I want to show off. So you can probably hear the stream. I'm quite close to one. It's like the coolest ever natural-ish bear hang, just hangs out from the cliff. Flattish spot. And really cool rock formations. Alright, you may notice a difference in picture and sound quality, and that is because I am on my backup phone that I almost sent home like 9 times, or more literally like twice. So I bought an, quote, upgrade battery bank, which is a Basis 20K 65 watt charger, charging battery bank, and on paper it's an amazing battery bank. It holds a lot of juice. You can charge it from dead to full in about 2 hours on a wall plug, which is amazing. So I figured it would give me some freedom in listening to my audiobooks, taking lots of pictures, videos, all that kind of stuff. So I sent home my Nightcore 20K, which was being a little screwy. It never failed on me, but it was acting up. Like when I would unplug it from the wall, it would still flash that it was charging, which it wasn't, and that should shut off. And there's other times I would plug things into that one, and it would be fussy. It wouldn't start charging them, and I would have to like mess with it. But anyway, about 2.5 days in from Steamboat, with that new battery bank, I plugged my phone in the morning. It had never got below freezing. It was a little chilly. It's probably like 40 degrees. But when I checked on my phone about 40 minutes later, thinking it would probably be topped off, instead my phone didn't say it was charging. It had only charged 11 to 14% more. It was at like 30. And it was at 44%. And the battery bank itself was doing nothing. So I checked the cable connections, assuming it probably got loose, because that would make sense. And that wasn't the case. I couldn't get the battery bank to turn on. I basically had to baby my phone for the rest of the way till I got to encampment. The story gets worse. So plus the new battery bank's a pound, so I had to carry a pound of useless brick, basically, which was really frustrating, especially since I've owned it for 3 days at that point. Anyway, I plug it back, the battery bank back in. It starts charging up fine. It needed some kind of reset by being plugged into a wall, which is really frustrating. But the true horror story, and why this video is so long, is that coincidentally, or maybe because of whatever happened with that, my good phone, my primary phone, LG S21 Ultra, or a Samsung S21 Ultra, the charging port doesn't work at all. I can plug headphones in and it won't play through them. I can plug it into the wall and it won't charge it. So now I've got like a broken primary phone that I'm carrying around. That's like a pound of dead weight right now. And I have to go into Rollins and try to figure things out. So anyway, really long video, but definitely my first catastrophic gear failure. And I think it's very unlikely it's coincidence. I think that battery bank nuked it, basically. So that's super frustrating. I wouldn't recommend that battery bank to anybody. Last little bit of snow that I can see in the mountains from the way that I came. I've been going downhill for a long time, and it's starting to look a lot less mountainy and a lot more plainsy. So I'm down close to 8,000 feet now. And it's really starting to feel like I'm in Wyoming. Well, welcome to Wyoming. day 81. So I am on a dirt road that I've been on all morning and will probably be on all day. Really easy walking. It's cloudy but not raining, so that's nice because it's super exposed here. So that means I'm not getting as much sun as I certainly could be. Last night around midnight there was a really strong thunderstorm and I wasn't in a very good spot. I was exposed, and I actually spent a lot of the storm trying to support the inside of the tent, and the wind was so strong that it was blowing wet sand through underneath the rainfly and through the mesh, and the inside of my tent got like powder coated with damp sand, including all over my face. So it was very unpleasant, but it was a learning lesson for these really open areas to be a little bit more careful about choosing protected campsites, and also making sure to guy out my tent better in case those storms come in, even if it's nice and calm when I go to bed like it was last night. That ended up being the worst thunderstorm I had of the entire trip, and it was blowing so hard I had to sit up and put my back against the trekking pole to try to support the tent. The tent did pretty good, all things considered, but I didn't want it to fail. So we've got a critter in the road, and I can't tell if it's just sunning itself. It doesn't look like it's been crushed to me, so I'm going to give it a wide berth because it certainly looks like a patterned rattlesnake to me. That'll be the second one I've seen in the trip and only the third one I've ever seen in the wild. Oh yeah, it's alive. It's licking its tongue. This is the morning that I went into Rollins, and in this pavilion there's a whole bunch of cliff swallow nests, and they're flying around all over the place. And they're really fun to watch because they're aerial acrobats just swooping all over the place eating the bugs. Rollins is a pretty big town that has everything you could really want, including a Verizon store, so I left with a new phone. I also switched over to like my grizzly bear setup, so I started carrying bear spray here. So, Wyoming has what's called the Great Basin, or sometimes referred to as the Red Desert, and you do most of it to get to Rollins, but then after Rollins, you still have a whole bunch more to go until you get to kind of Atlantic City, or the Lander area, which is sort of the end of that. So I've left Rollins today, a much later start than I was planning because I have a new phone. So a huge thank you to my wife. I just came really close to stepping on a rattlesnake. I didn't even see it. It's the first time in my life I've been rattled at, and I heard it and scurried ahead and turned around, and I was probably 2 or 3 feet away from stepping on it. It was a really little guy camouflaged on the rocks. And as soon as it had a chance, it scurried down into a burrow. So but it was still startling, so now I'm really careful where I'm stepping. I saw a couple gorgeous, huge deer also, so that was pretty wild, but pretty wide open, hot, but nice wind. After walking in the hot desert and almost stepping on rattlesnakes, this place kind of felt like a mirage. There was 6-ish young kids, probably all under age 10, working this thing. So I had about a 3/4 of a mile road walk, and I was pretty thirsty, and I'm carrying a lot of water, but I wanted to save it for tonight and tomorrow. And out of all things, there's a lemonade stand that has soft serve ice cream right there. So I just got 2 glasses of lemonade, and I hit the spot. Best $3 I've spent in a while. When I went to that lemonade stand and everybody else was getting ice cream there, I ran back into my friend Courier and his partner, and they switched from those heavy trail running shoes to those foam flip-flops that you see in this picture. So it was a short day out of Rollins. Only did about 18 miles. Didn't eat most of the food that I carried out for today because I just didn't work that hard. The mosquitoes here are probably the worst they've been at the trip so far. They're vicious. So it's breakfast in bed because it's warm enough that mosquitoes are already after me. But the sunset's just so gorgeous that I have to at least take the chance. Did I say sunset to sunrise? So now that I'm actually a good distance away from Rollins, and I can't see the paved road anymore, there's a busy highway to the east, it's feeling a lot more like what I thought the Great Basin would be like, which is kind of cool because it felt a little civilized. The whole time I was walking yesterday, there was a major highway with cars and trucks going by, so right now it actually kind of feels like I'm in the middle of nowhere, which is what I was expecting and kind of hoping for from this. All right, so it is the morning of my 85th day out here since I've started, and there's a pretty good water source down the hill, just about a couple, maybe 100 yards that way. I slept right here. There was a chance of thunderstorms, so I set up my tent in like fortress mode and got a really good pitch on it, but then didn't really rain. Well, it didn't rain at all, and it wasn't windy at all, so that worked out. But did a big day yesterday. It was a little over 40 miles. It was hot. The clouds disappeared in the afternoon. So right now it's still a little overcast. I'm going to try to enjoy a little bit of shade I get before the sun comes out. And I don't really have plans for today. I'm starting a little later because I was tired. My body was sore. But the more I chew off today, the less I have tomorrow when I go into Atlantic City. There's a super cute baby cow and mama. One of those rare times that cow milk is actually going to a baby cow, but it's cute. The rest of this clip really gets drowned out with very bad wind. But this was an enormous herd of wild horses out in the Great Basin, and they just kept going and going and going. It was a truly incredible sight to see. I think of horses being so domestic, but these are not somebody's pets. Those are just completely out living in the open, just as wild as a group of deer or something. But they were absolutely beautiful, and this is one of the really special moments of the trail that I was just like, wow, this is an absolutely incredible thing to see. I am hanging out under a bridge right now, which is nice because it's shady and a bit of a wind block because it's very windy. Today is July 25th, which should be my 86th day out here, and today's should be my last day in the Great Basin, which has been a very different environment from what I'm used to, because it's very flat and exposed and open and very windy, and I got hit by a few thunderstorms in here too, so it's kind of like a wetter feeling New Mexico. However, it's actually gotten up into the 90s, whereas New Mexico in May was usually in the mid 70s, so it's been hot, but the wind helps keep it manageable. I'm planning on getting to Atlantic City in roughly, I don't know, call it 13, 14 miles from here. And this is my last water stop for the day. So the basin has been an experience. I've been doing some big days. I did a day that was a little over 40, just to try to cover ground because it's easy. So the next stop is the Wind River Range. So I have a big resupply in Atlantic City and then into the winds. This spot is pretty cool, so I'll flip around the camera so you can see what I've got for a setup. So there's some cliff swallows here under this big concrete bridge. They're really pretty neat. Great water. You can tell I'm getting closer to the mountains because there's a lot of flowing water. Most of the water in the Great Basin is cow ponds and a couple cattle pumps like New Mexico had. I've got a really nice water filter system right here. It's hanging off of the top of the bridge, so I can even sit on this very comfortable bench thing and just change the bottles from here. So yeah, the basin, about to check it off the to-do list.